Hey there, Absolutely Gospel friends and fans. I'm so excited to bring you another interview this week. And we have none other than the incomparable Mr. Steve Ladd with the Old Paths. We're going to talk a little bit about their new album and just see what's going on with the group and find out what's happening with them. So how are you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on. I love Absolutely Gospel. Our group does. And of course, I've been associated with y'all a long time, even when your father ran it. And so we love everyone there. And so I'm honored to be a part of this.
Yeah. And we have always had a great friendship with Steve Ladd, of course. And we're glad to continue that. And first of all,
I got to say one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but John Stemberg was one of the first people to introduce me to you and your family and your father years ago with the Anchorman.
Okay.
And that's when I first met you. Well, you were young, a lot younger. We all were a lot younger, but your dad and your mom, of course. And so I've known your family for years. And so thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We love the Anchorman too, as well, so a lot of history there. So, well, first of all, I want to say the new album is great. I think it does a great job. There's a couple of groups that are kind of on the scene right now that I think are doing a really good job of balancing a traditional quartet sound with a little more progressive sound. And it's hard to pigeonhole exactly where they fit. And you guys are definitely one of those. And so I was listening to the new record yesterday, kind of refreshing on it. And it just, everything about it was like every other song. One song was a little more progressive and the next one was real traditional. And it was great because it can open up you guys to new audiences and that kind of thing. But before we talk about the new album, give us a rundown of the group, what's going on with the Old Paths in terms of membership and that kind of thing, just so we can all remember who we're talking about here.
Sure. Well, the group, started almost 20 years ago, 2003. They started. Tim Rackley, who's our lead singer, and Doug Rourke, who sings baritone. They started the group. They sang together before that with the Rollins years ago. And so the group's been going on since 2003. They had a couple of different bass singers, then added Daniel Ashmore when he was 21. He's like 32 now. So he's been with the group for 10, 11 years. And then the group came off the road back in 2015 for 2 years. And Tim's daughter had to have a kidney transplant and some other family issues. And so, you know what, they were like, how can we go travel the world and see the whole world get saved and neglect our family at home? And so they did the right thing, took a couple years off. And then Chris White, who owns Horizon Sunlight Crossroads label group, he had got a hold of me. He said, I want to put the Old Paths back together. I know you're solo. Do this along with your solo ministry. And so I love Chris and I trust Chris's input and his ideas. So we've done this. Didn't know a whole lot about the group before I joined them. And but man, since 2017, we did about 10 dates that year, 18, maybe 15, and then just went full time 19, and then COVID hit. So, we were on a roll. We had a #1 song in 19 with Come Sunday Morning, had a cover of the Sing News in March, and then COVID hit in March. And so but God has been good. We've been staying busy. We had a rough time, just like everyone, with COVID as far as dates canceling. But other than that, so yeah, the same group is intact as it was before they came off the road, except they've added me, and I'm enjoying it. I've been here almost 4 years now total. And I think our music has progressed, like you were saying, in a good way. We're not trying to leave our heritage or the group's heritage of what they started, but it's a different day and age. And with the church world now just embracing a blended service, we'd like to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about the new album a little bit. Who was the producer on this one?
Roger Talley.
Okay.
Produced it. And that's our second album that he's produced since I've been with the group. The second album ever with the group, but he produced What Love Does, that had Look at All I Lost, and I Got the Grace, He Gets the Glory, some wonderful songs. And this one, he just knocked it out of the park. I had an idea, and we had an idea as a group, and I tried to come with the group with this idea that we could do some covers. We don't like to do covers. I mean, everyone does a cover every once in a while, but doing something that is familiar. But, in this day and age, when we're trying to get people to relate to us in a non-Southern gospel churched crowd, sometimes if you could do something they're familiar with, then they're open to listening to your traditional stuff or your songs. So that's kind of the idea we had going into the album, and Roger just went with it.
Yeah, and I think, well, it's a trend that we're seeing in Southern gospel right now, and that's taking a really popular Christian pop song, giving it a little bit of a twist in Southern gospel, but it's even not really that much as it is just embedding it in harmonies, maybe giving a little bit of a country flair. And of course, when you did with Good God Almighty, you didn't really need a country flair; it already kind of had that. You took Izzy Worthy, which is been a big worship song and choral song, and put a nice Southern gospel spin on it. And it's nothing new, but it does open the door a little bit, and get you in places that maybe weren't that wouldn't have been open to a Southern gospel quartet before.
We hear that a lot, as far as like I sang last night in Social Circle, Georgia. I'm not doing solo dates, but it was a favor for our lead singer, Tim Rackley. He had agreed to go do a few songs out of Revival for a friend of his, and he couldn't make it. So I went and I did, and afterwards people were telling my wife, I love that it was everything. It was worship. It was Southern. It was, I did One More River to Cross, So, I mean, and I think that there's a place for everything in music, as far as, especially even Christian music, as long as the lyrics glorify God and it don't compromise your faith or what your standards are. Man, I just love it. I love music in general. I love great songs, and it doesn't matter if the Kingsmen recorded it or Third Day. If it speaks to me, I want to sing it.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I enjoyed the record first time I heard it, and then I got reacquainted with it again, yesterday when I was preparing for our interview, and it's great. It's a great quartet record. It's a great modern quartet record. There's and that's the best way I can put it. It still has its traditional elements, but then also some progressive elements. But really, anything Steve Ladd touches is going to have a little bit of that progressive edge to it.
I try, man. That's just my thing. One thing, and I will tell you this, and my history, as far as you've probably heard me or followed me starting in Southern gospel. My hero was Brian Furry growing up. That was who my favorite group was Gold City. And so I patterned my voice. Thank God I had the same type of voice and so all I heard when I first went with Anchorman was, it's Gold. It sounds like Brian Free. And then, of course, first with Gold City, and Doug Riley was in the back lounge one night. And we were just talking. We sat in the back lounge a lot before he passed away. And he said, man, I just can't wait to hear Steve sing. And I didn't really get it at that moment. But then Michael English, when he produced the Revival album with Preach the Word and Truth is Marching On, and that's when I started developing my voice to be me. Was he was like, man, you don't have to think about that and all that and everybody, what you think people want to hear you sound like. He said, just be you. And I got it. And it wasn't a fact that I'm going to reinvent anything. I just started singing, and I've always gravitated to the more progressive stuff. So I just try to sing with as much feeling as I can, but thank you. But that's the thing. I just don't want to be compared to anybody anymore. I want people to remember what I do.
Yeah, and you can still hear Brian Free in your voice, and that's acceptable. That's great because he is.
And I love it. I mean, he's still one of my all-time growing up, my all-time favorite tenor singers.
Yeah.
So I don't knock that people say, even to this day, they'll say you sound like Brian Free, and I love it. But I'm glad that I'm starting to get known for my voice.
Sure. Yeah. And there's a few artists, a few singers that I always put in a category, and it's those who know how to interpret a lyric. Right. They don't just sing the notes and the words to it, but they know how to express it the right way it needs to be expressed. And I've always considered you as one of those top guys in the industry. I was like a great example of this outside of Southern Gospel. CeCe Winans knows how to absolutely tell the story of the song, while she's
make you believe it. She could be singing about a walking washer machine that's going to get ice cream, but you're going to believe it.
Right. Exactly. And so, especially on this record, I really heard it on some of the ballads, that you did. I was like, Steve is definitely knowing how to tell the story of the song. And so not trying to make your head any bigger or any smaller or anything like that, but just that's something I picked up on the new record.
A huge compliment. Thank you.
So I know we talked a little bit about COVID, but I do want to talk a little bit more about COVID because this is kind of something that I'm trying to talk to everybody about as we're walking out of it. Of course, COVID was a big deal for our industry. We lost several people. We lost my dad. We lost Aaron Wilburn, Jeff Stice, all these amazing people to the virus. but it also reshaped how this industry had to do things. And so how have you seen that with the old paths? How have you walked through it, and now that you're coming out of it?
I think it's made us a lot more appreciative, number one, because I know, I've been on, and just like you've been doing this your whole life, and I've traveled even before the Anchorman. My father's an evangelist, and we were homeschooled. We traveled in a van and a fifth wheel camper, and so I was always been on the road, and I've always loved it. But I guess the older I got, the more you do it full time every week for a living, I was like, man, I'm tired of being on the road. I'm tired of traveling, and I just wish I didn't have to go this weekend. And then there we were, 5 months, nothing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the only place you could go is a grocery store and Walmart. I mean, that was limited. And so it made me, at first I was like, oh, this is a great little vacation. I can recharge and rest my voice and everything. And then after about 3 weeks, I was like, I wish I was back out there doing it. And so number one, made me appreciative of what God has allowed me to do. I mean, it's a hard being on the road, hard being artistic and trying to train your voice and stay up to par with that. That's work. But man, it's not like going and having to punch a clock, and do manual labor all the time, like some people do and have to do. And it made me just appreciative that God's been so good to me. But number two, it made us also cautious. Southern Gospel is one of the only music industries, where we hug everybody. We want to be all over them, shake hands, and just sit down, and now we're a little more leery. I kind of ask sometimes before I shake someone, said, are you shaking? Because you don't know what immune system deficiencies people have, and you don't know. And it's just different. I'm still learning that. Sometimes I'll just go ahead and stick out my hand, but then I'll start to think, well, do you shake? Are you even contacting anyone? So, but it has also made us realize what we're singing about is really true. And he is still as faithful today that he was back when Moses' days. And he's brought us through, it's scary times, but this world and humanity has always went through scary times. But it's just a testament of the fact to know that he has really got us and he's taking care of us. Yes, we've lost people, and I'm so sad to hear about Dion, and it just, but he's taking care of us, and he still has. And in a day where, dates are lower than what they used to be, crowds are smaller than what they used to be, he's still taking care of us, and we're still able to sing. So I'm just thankful for the whole situation.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's about all I have in terms of questions for you. I do want to ask one more. I've been interviewing artists, not just in Southern Gospel, but in other genres, and been doing this for over 20 years. And myself, and the one question I always end every interview with is, what is God teaching you at the moment?
God has taught me a lot, man, in the last few years, my whole life. But when you grow up in the ministry and you on stage or in front of people, and people think, oh, he's got everything together. You have to kind of keep that front to where, God has taught me so much. At the last 4 years, I went through a divorce. I'm real. I'm just going to be real. I don't care anymore what people think. And so it was not a horrible situation, but it was very, very stressful and a dark time for me and my ex-wife. But God brought me to a place and to let me. I just thought, well, this is it for me. As far as I'm pushing 50, I won't never get married again, and I'll just, I'll go sing and do my thing. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago I met my wife, and God showed me that there is, nothing is final. Nothing is final. There's always another corner. There's always another step you need to take. And he has taught me that if I'll just put my trust in him, I can't go wrong. Now, I can go wrong as far as stepping into stupid or doing something stupid. But if I put my trust in him to know whether I lose my job, whether my health fades, whether, anything, God forbid, something happened to my children or my grandchild, I still need to learn to trust him. And that's what he's taught me, because I can't do anything on my own, man. And that when COVID hit, nobody was in control. Nobody knew what was going on. All we could do is trust him, and he didn't let us down, So he's taught me that, number one, he loves me, and you'll never be too far. You'll never be too dark. You'll never be too depressed or lonely for him not to change your life and still love you.
Great. That's great. Well, Steve, where can people contact Old Paths, even your ministry? Where can they hear your music?
theoldpathsonline.com. Of course, on social media, we're on TikTok. Now, TikTok's a little different. It's Top Quartet. And I had someone send me a message and say, at first I thought you were being really haughty things, calling yourself the cop. It's just a T for the O for the old and P for the past. It's just a shorter abbreviation of that.
Sure.
Top Quartet on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that. Just search The Old Paths on there, and we'd love to see. We're so excited about what God's doing in a day where everything's still iffy, and some groups are they're losing a lot of dates or whatever. We're staying busy, and God's been good. And I don't say that braggadociously. I'm just saying, if you put your trust in Him, all He can do is take care of you. Yeah. So
that's great. That's great. Well, music to your ears is the new record on Crossroads,
and that's the new single too. We just sent out. Good God Almighty was a top 10 song for us. Music to Your Ears is the brand new radio song. We have a lyric video for it coming out very soon. So
awesome. That's great, and I highly recommend the record. So check it out, and of course, if Old Paths are in your area, go see them and buy their record at their table. All right.
Hey, let's go follow my dog, Toby. He's a golden doodle, 1-year-old. My wife has had him a TikTok and an Instagram for only a month. And he's got more followers on all that stuff than some of us do. And he's pretty. But Chris, thank you so much. I love it. Please tell your sister and your family hello for me.
We will do that. Thanks, Steve, for joining us. And once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you later.